welcome to Family Theater Productions. My name is Father Vince Kuna. I'm a producer here. I want to welcome LizZie, who, as you know, run LizziesAnswers. In my opinion, she probably articulates the Catholic faith better than a lot of the U.S. bishops here. So without further ado, I introduce Lizzie.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. I never get asked to talk about the technical side of my channel because I feel like most people just see my social media or what I'm posting on YouTube. But the reality is that every day I'm spending 10 hours behind my computer editing videos. So I'm gonna start by talking about the start of my channel and how I got involved in YouTube. I started when I was 15, so in high school, and I got into film kind of by accident. So this is my cat, Christmas. Whenever I'm home in Florida, he always lays on top of my computer when I'm editing because it's really warm, so he'll always interrupt me when I'm editing. Okay, so this is the first video I ever uploaded 8 years ago. It's very awkward watching back my older videos because I was so young. So I went to an arts high school and I applied for creative writing, and it was a very competitive, intense school. And it was in the communications department. So I get there for writing and debate, but our first year we have to do kind of a wheel class to try out every part of the major. So we had to do film, TV production, graphic design. And so I get there my freshman year, am so excited for writing, and I get told I have to take film for a year. And I was so mad. I didn't even know how to use a tripod, but I ended up, this is me writing. I ended up really falling in love with film. These are pictures of my friends and I in our TV production studio and our editing suite. So basically in all my film classes, we learned the technical side of things, but in TV, I had so much fun script writing, interviewing people, and I really fell in love with editing. I remember sitting in the editing suite on my lunch breaks for 2 hours after school. We edited with Final Cut Pro 7. Now I use Final Cut Pro X, but it's just something that I really fell in love with and had such a passion for. So I started my YouTube channel the summer after my sophomore year of high school. I remember being home on summer break, being bored, and I'm like, what if I start a YouTube channel? And what I tell everyone is after that point, I never was bored ever again because I always had so much time into my YouTube channel. So I'm gonna go through some of my video titles. This is probably the best way to give you a look into my channel. So when I was in high school, a lot of people would ask me relationship advice questions. Signs a guy likes you, signs a shy girl likes you. So I had some of these videos go viral, and that's where I got a lot of my audience from. I also talked a lot about school, high school, college, studying. When I went to college, I talked all about my experience, advice for studying, for roommates. But my channel has always also been about Christianity, and the reason I really wanted to start talking about this online is because I grew up in a Protestant church called Churches of Christ, and women were not allowed to have a public role at all. So we couldn't do song leading, we couldn't do scripture reading, we couldn't even pass the collection plates for money. And the church I went to in Florida became way more conservative than the Midwest. I was actually teaching an 9 and 10-year-old Bible class, and because one of the guys had just been baptized, we did baptism later on, so most of the kids were not baptized yet. But I actually got yelled at by a male at the church and told I have to walk out and I'm not allowed to teach these children because I'm a woman. And even in my youth group class, I could not pray out loud, I couldn't lead Bible studies. So all of this was infuriating for me because I loved public speaking and I loved teaching. So that's why I started talking about Christianity on YouTube, because I was allowed to talk about it. So I'm gonna kind of get into the technical behind the scenes of my channel, what goes on day to day. So when I was in college and in high school, I used my zebra print backdrop. It was like my bed sheet, and I used it as my background. And so a lot of people who are OG, who have been watching me for a long time, they remember how every video was a zebra print backdrop. So this is actually in my dorm room at college. So I would put it, like, this is the closet right here, and I would put it over the closet and film all of my videos. So a lot of people ask me how I come up with constant video ideas, because I've made over 400 videos, and every week I make 2 or 3 videos for the past 8 years. So this is a screenshot of my phone. The notes section of my phone, I have 2,000 notes. I'm constantly coming up with new ideas. I talk about bipolar disorder and my experience with it so much on my channel. And even before, way before I was diagnosed, I'm kind of constantly in a hypomanic type state. And so all the time, I just have a stream of ideas of what to write. In college, I'd be in the middle of class and suddenly a video idea would just come to me and I would just write so fast and have the whole script written out. Also, my subscribers are a huge part of my life. I think what makes my job so much different than most jobs in the film industry is it's a relationship with my subscribers. I share so much. I'm so vulnerable about my life and what I'm going through. And so they message me like paragraphs about what they're dealing with, what their problems are. I'm like their therapist. And it's really amazing. People share really vulnerable things they're dealing with, like a divorce, breakup, eating disorder, depression, suicidal thoughts. All of these things from the very beginning of my channel when I was in high school, people would come to me with all of their problems. And I think at times it's really, really overwhelming and hard to be able to process and focus on my life because you get like hundreds of messages from all these people who are broken and needing help. And so through the years, I've really had to force myself to not try to be like the savior helping everyone because there's not enough of me to go around and help every single person. But I do spend a lot of my time reading through Instagram, Snapchat DMs, messages, emails, and I try to get a feel of what everyone wants me to talk about and what people are struggling with. And that really fuels a lot of my channel. I'm getting constant questions and messages from people. So I share so much about my life with my subscribers, and coming here, you wanted me to talk about kind of how I integrate my faith into my channel. I think what is interesting is I never ever went into YouTube wanting to convert people or even wanting to share my faith or evangelize. I've never ever viewed it like that. I've just talked about my life, shared myself, and through that, I've organically talked about God, organically talked about scripture and my prayer life because it's so integral to who I am. And these are other pictures of my life. I talk about my friends. I just take people behind the scenes in my life. And recently, since I've become Catholic, I like tour all the cathedrals and parishes where I'm visiting. And so I'm always putting on like my Instagram and Snapchat everywhere I go. I like take pictures of all the beautiful art. So this is kind of behind the scenes again of my channel. I'm gonna kind of walk you like from the very beginning of a video to the end of the video and what the whole process is like. So these are really old Instagram pictures from like when I was in college, by the way. So I start with script writing, and I'd say it takes maybe anywhere from like 2, maybe even 10 hours to write a video script. Some videos are really, really research intensive. I spent 4 hours today researching Greek etymology of the word in John 6 that when Jesus says, "Eat my flesh." So I spent like 4 hours doing word studies and finding the words in other Greco-Roman literature. So when it comes to my theology dense videos, it takes a lot of research. But I think what really helped me is when I was in Pepperdine, I studied philosophy and religion. So my time as a student there, I took all of these things I was learning in class, the textbooks I was reading, the lectures, and I kind of organically integrated that into my channel. But now that I'm out of school, I have to do a ton of my own theology research, and it's really, really fun. So then when I'm filming, I do my makeup for a video, do my hair. That typically takes an hour. And then after I film, I have an hour and a half of raw footage that I have to edit down to a 15 or 20-minute video. Most of my videos are heavily outlined, so I'll have 10 pages of a video script, but a lot of times as well, I have word for word written out, and I'll even have parentheses of the exact emotion I want to emulate. So I think a lot of times on my channel, it comes across very down to earth, like I'm just talking to everyone, kind of spontaneous, but the truth is that every facial expression is kind of planned and not faked, but a lot of it really is written down and trying to curate this YouTube self. And that's something else that's very interesting. How I am on my YouTube channel is kind of different than how my actual personality is. And I think a lot of YouTubers do this, but you want to come across as the most high energy, exciting, happy version of yourself online. And so I think the way I act in camera is kind of like a manic-esque version of myself where I talk so loud and I'm so excited. But how I am in my actual life is I'm more chill and quiet, and I like asking questions and listening more than talking. And so that's kind of a really weird part of being a YouTuber. You kind of lose yourself within this YouTube character because I spend every single day editing myself talk, but it's not really me, it's a character, but it's a character that was created from me. And so a lot of times it's difficult to be authentic in my actual life because I'm so used to being LizziesAnswers. So my actual editing process, I edit on Final Cut Pro X, and I'm addicted to editing. This is the software we used in my high school, and once I got a basic tutorial on how it works, I just fell in love. And I feel like editing is almost like a toy I get to play with every single day, so I have a lot of fun with it. The thing about YouTube is since you're writing, producing, editing, makeup, acting, like you're doing all of that together, it takes up all of your time. I never have free time. I spend 12, 15 hours a day working. I work from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. Sometimes when I'm manic, like this past month, there have been 3 times where I didn't take one of my meds so I could work more, and I worked for 24 hours straight. And I'm not exaggerating at all. I was manic and I'm at my computer and I'm just editing constantly and am able to work constantly. So even though bipolar is awful, hell, I would never want anyone to go through the depression part of it. The manic part of it, I see it's almost like an artistic drug-like force, but a drug-like version of me, which really inspires and empowers a lot of my content. I feel like I wouldn't be able to come up with all these video ideas and I wouldn't be able to churn out so much content if I wasn't bipolar. And so this, going along with the video editing process, so I do a lot of color editing, and this is kind of like my set where I film. It's just in my room. And then I will edit in kind of titles for each video. And then I'll edit in different graphics and like end cards, and all of that together will take 30 to 50 hours to make. I think a lot of people don't realize how intensive editing takes. No one who doesn't do YouTube themselves will understand kind of like how much sacrifice and intensity goes into it. And then also with videos, I always am adding in background music, and I'm a perfectionist. So if I'm rewatching editing the video, I'll be like up and down like by like percentages to make sure it's the perfect amount of audio. And then this total process, 30 hours. So I want to talk about my experience in college because it really influenced and poured into a lot of my content. So I went to Pepperdine University, which is in Malibu. It's a beautiful campus, but the most beautiful part is the people. It's a very family-like environment. And I think because so many Christians go there, everyone's just really looking out for each other, and there's so much vulnerability with everyone who is there. When I was at Pepperdine, I did a lot of dorm tour videos and talked a lot about my experience as a college student. Two things that really changed my YouTube channel were my diagnosis of bipolar disorder and my conversion into Catholicism, which both happened when I was in college. If you would have told me 3 years ago that all of my content would be about bipolar and Catholicism, I would be shocked and so confused because I never saw either of those things coming. My bipolar was kind of, looking back, you can kind of see it even from when you're an infant. Like, babies who are bipolar will cry and cry and cry and not stop crying. But especially looking back at high school, a lot of my sleeping changes and energy levels, looking back, it totally made sense that I had bipolar. And I remember my senior year when I was in severe depression and failing out of all of my classes, just praying and telling God, all I want to do is help people. All I want to do is do ministry. And because I was in depression, I was not capable of helping anyone or loving anyone because I lost all of myself and had no energy. And so being within that space and feeling so helpless and like everything in my life was going wrong. I could barely graduate college. I wasn't uploading videos for that time. It was such an awful period of my life. But then because I struggled through that and healed from that and had the diagnosis, I've been able to help tens of thousands of people who also suffer with it. And it's a similar thing with my conversion into Catholicism. When I was a student at Pepperdine, there was a trend in the philosophy department of students converting into Catholicism from Protestantism. It was just something I saw from my freshman year. I think of people I know at Pepperdine, there have been 12 or 13 of us from when I was a student who were converting in. And just with bipolar, it was something that was happening gradually in my theology, but it isn't something I saw until there was like a moment where it clicked in 2017 where I started researching in. But then looking back, there were things like Saved by Faith Alone, Sola Scriptura that I had given up years ago. And my content with bipolar and Catholicism is very similar. When I was diagnosed with bipolar, kind of the first year of diagnosis in 2016, I got addicted and I would be researching constantly about bipolar, different medicines, different trials, all of these aspects of research because I was horrified. I had a chronic illness I would have for the rest of my life where I have a 1 in 2 chance of attempting suicide, 90% chance of getting divorced. And so I just got addicted to researching all of these things. And because of that research, it became applied into my YouTube content. And it was a similar thing with Catholicism the next year in 2017. When I started looking into the church being true, I just, for myself, was addicted to researching and would read and read so much. And then that got into my video content. And so I think my YouTube is somewhere where I can emulate all of the passion and energy that I wouldn't be able to share with anyone else if it wasn't for my channel. I think the hardest part of college and just my YouTube channel has been balancing school and work. I was a student full-time, taking upper div major classes. Same in high school. I was a full-time student doing so many extracurriculars, debate team, cross-country, track, all these things on the side, but then also working 34 hours a week on my YouTube. Most YouTubers drop out of college. Now YouTubers are dropping out of high school to pursue YouTube, but I felt really passionate about going to college just because I love to learn, but it was something that I never would have just given up. So in high school and college, I was constantly sleep deprived. I would consistently live off of 3-4 hours of sleep to get videos up and to get studying done. And I know in our country, it's just becoming extremely so much pressure on all students in high school and college. But I know for me, I was so unhealthy in trying to be successful at all of these things all at once. But I am really glad I stuck through it. But one of my favorite things about graduating is getting to solely focus on work instead of having all these things balanced all at once. I was constantly sleep deprived, and now I make sure to get my 9 hours of sleep every night, mostly just because I have to for my bipolar. But YouTube is just something that's always been a huge sacrifice. So this is something really funny I wanted to talk about. So I get a lot of kind of like press mail from companies, and also a lot of my subscribers writing me. So when I was in college, I had my P.O. box, and people would send me things with like my YouTube name, LizziesAnswers, rather than my actual last name, which I don't really make public. And they wouldn't put the P.O. box number. And so one time I went to the mailroom to drop out a package, and I was sending it with my like YouTube name, and they were like, "You're LizziesAnswers?" And I'm like, "What?" And they pointed over, and they had a pile of packages that people had sent me, but they hadn't had my name. And they were really mad at me after that. And they're like, "You can't have another name." But that's part of being a YouTuber. You have this audience who love you. So I talked about philosophy before. As a philosophy major in college, it really forced me to learn so much about different theologians, ethics, philosophy of mind, epistemology, all of these things. I feel like in high school, I got all my technical training when it came to film, writing, even debate. Being on the debate team helped me so much because we were forced to constantly speak impromptu research. It forced me to just be confident, know how to enunciate, everything. But college really gave me kind of like the intellectual fueling, which was poured into all of my content. So I kind of wanted to show how my video editing process has developed through the years. If you look at this timeline, this is when I was 17, and then 19, and then this is now. So my videos have become increasingly like just talking to the camera and cut, to having kind of like different shots and titles and editing, to now where I'm perfectionist about everything and it will take 40 hours total. And I wanted to show, I couldn't really like capture all of the time frame, but this is a video I made recently, and it probably took 150 hours to edit because I was integrating so many things into it. And that's just something that, again, people who watch me will never ever be able to understand how long video editing takes. So I want to talk about more of integrating faith and now Catholicism into my channel. So video editing. So a lot of people on the internet who talk about Christianity, I think they talk about it as if the only people who will hear are other Christians. A lot of YouTubers will talk, especially about like LGBTQ issues, in a way that so many people get offended and hurt by, and they're called certain names. My audience has always been very, very diverse. I don't just have Christians, I have so many atheists, agnostics who watch my videos on Christianity and really, really enjoy them. I have lots of Trump supporters, lots of SJWs. I have people of all ages, and they're all able to watch my content and not get offended by it, if that makes sense. I feel like growing up, I learned so much about the world and different cultural perspectives. My family was always very, very Democrat, still is, but we grew up in Indiana, which was really conservative and very Christian. Then we moved to South Florida, where everyone in my high school was atheist. Then I went to California and a Christian university. So I've kind of been in every different cultural environment within the US, and I understand how everyone thinks. And so when I share things in a video, I anticipate how other people will view it and be affected by it. So I'm able to talk about Catholic sexual ethics, Catholic dogma, in a way that doesn't offend anyone. I see a lot of YouTube channels that are grilled, Christian channels that are grilled by other YouTubers, because they say things in, I don't know how to explain it, but kind of like an absolutist, direct, you're doing this type way. And I always am very careful in how I talk to kind of give caveats and validate emotions in a way that doesn't completely push away the agnostic, liberal, SJW part of my channel. And it's something that I really had to teach my personality, just because Liz, my actual self, is very direct and blunt. But on YouTube, I have to be very nice and gentle in how I say things. And it's been a huge learning process, just because in my actual life, I do not care about people's feelings. I'm very black and white, truth, you're wrong, horrible at emotional support. But then, it's true, I'm so bad at emotions. But then on my channel, everyone thinks I'm this very like nurturing, sweet, emotional person, but it's all an act. So with what has happened recently, when I came out about my conversion, I was completely shocked. I had no idea it would be a Catholic media storm. I remember just like crying the week this happened, because I suddenly got so many emails from publishing companies, news outlets, interviews, like all within 12 hours basically. And suddenly I'm a public figure in the Catholic world. And I think it's been really interesting being confirmed into the church and finally making public kind of my RCIA and my research journey that I'd kept to myself for so long. It has been so freeing and amazing finally being able to talk about what the past 2 years have been like for me. And I've been getting so many messages from people who are also so scared to tell their parents or their wife or husband or their children or people in their life that they want to become Catholic. There's so many people who were in my same situation, reading so much and being terrified of falling in love with this truth and just being so scared of where that will lead them. And so like what I was saying with my bipolar disorder, where in 2015, when I'm a senior in college, just feeling deep depression, feeling so disconnected from myself, failing classes, you just feel like you're in such a pit and you're not able to help anyone and everything is going wrong. It was a similar thing in 2017 when I started researching into the church. I was supposed to move to Thailand to be a Protestant missionary, and I got fired by that because of my changing beliefs. And so kind of the rift that created with my family, just that entire year was a really awful emotional experience. I cried so much. It's awful having to leave the church that is your family your entire life and just feel like you're betraying all of these people who nurtured my faith and taught me through the years. And so being able to share that vulnerability and that journey on my YouTube, it's the same thing where God takes these really painful, broken, awful situations, and then because I can share that with other people, it kind of reaches the same level of pain where they're at, and they're able to see light and understand that it does get better and that there will be so much peace and so much hope at the end of the journey. So this is kind of what I was talking about before with how I talk about very controversial issues, but people do not get offended by my content and everyone watches. It's been really, I think, kind of very hard, obviously, for Christianity, facing a lot of things going on in our culture today. And a lot of my viewership are Christians who are gay or bi or trans, who, even though they want to follow the church's teachings, have had such bad experiences with family or friends at their churches, feeling like they are not welcome, that God hates them, that who they are is a mistake. And so I've really gotten the ability to hear the stories of so many people in this situation. And because I understand what it is like to have gender dysphoria, to be gay, to have parents kick you out of the house, because I've seen all of that and read all of these messages, I'm able to speak about these issues in a way that doesn't hurt the people who are struggling with it. I think that trans issues, gender dysphoria, has become one of the most talked about controversial things going on in our country today. And I made a video interviewing another YouTuber who is an Orthodox Christian who has been diagnosed with gender dysphoria, and he has dysphoria. He's a biological man, but his whole life wanted to be female, felt so uncomfortable with his genitalia, with his body. And I interviewed for 30 minutes about his journey and am able to kind of shed light and emotionally validate the experience of people who have gender dysphoria and are really struggling with that and dealing with that. And so because I have access to all these people who are hurting and like dealing with these issues, because I understand their perspective, I'm able to emotionally validate and make these people feel understood and reach these people in a way that I think a lot of Christians and a lot of Christians online are kind of failing at doing. And so I think that's what's so amazing about how this is a relationship. It's not just a job, but I get to interact with the depths of what all these people are struggling with. Because of that, I kind of have this huge vision of what everyone's perspective within all the different religious and political climates within our country. So I wanted to go back. So with my bipolar videos and my Catholicism videos, I really see myself as kind of a mediating point with bipolar, between psychiatrists, and with Catholicism, between RCIA, Mass, priest, church authority. I feel like I'm this in-between where I want to point people towards professional help psychiatrists. I want to point people towards joining RCIA. A lot of people with YouTube, I've read articles, people are going to YouTube to find information to educate themselves on things that are going on. And so I think that it's really amazing to be using YouTube and just this personal relationship with people as the new evangelization, as a way to share God with all of these people. And like I said, where I'll get obsessed with research and just be researching constantly, that's really played out in a lot of the new content I've been making. It's really terrifying looking at all of these facets of church history and theology and interpretations of the Bible that you have to research. And so kind of following along my journey of digging deeper into different topics, I've just video by video been able to talk about papal infallibility, why women can't be priests, why Catholics don't do full immersion baptism all the time and baptize infants, just all the aspects of Catholicism. And because I dealt with that and have had that as just a huge struggle, I'm able to share with everyone online. This is something else I've been talking about a lot recently that I think I'm most passionate about, just sharing Catholic sexual ethics with the world. I think a lot of people go about it in the wrong way, where we make people feel judged by what we're saying. But my main point through all of these videos is that the number one concern is our children. The sexual revolution has created a society where 1 in 3 children are being raised without their dad, where so many marriages are ending in divorce. And it's amazing, a lot of the studies I've read, where if you only have sex with your husband, 90% chance of staying married. If you add in one additional sexual partner, 30% chance of divorce, and it just goes on and on. And so I think when we talk about a lot of these issues, we're saying, this is the rule, don't do this. But what I really try to share on my channel is kind of the results of a culture that's strayed away from the traditional sexual ethics and the way God planned out our society to be. And then kind of going back to the core of my channel and sharing myself with my subscribers, I think that's the veganism, that's the core part of evangelism. What I've learned from YouTube is just being raw and sharing yourself with people. And evangelism should never be something like, I want this person to think like this, I want this person to become a Christian. But it should always be in having a relationship with other people and earning their trust and showing them different parts of your life. So that is the truth about being a YouTuber, and that's everything I've learned through the years with evangelism.